Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome back. Because we have been waiting for this one a very long time. Because we're
Indeed.
here to get into our recap review of season 2 of Halo, which tonight we will be covering episodes 1 and 2, because episode 1 and 2 is our premiere episodes for the season. It is an 8 episode season, which is one episode less than season 1. But nonetheless, yes, Halo returns to Paramount Plus, and for all the people who hated it season 1, who didn't want to see it return, it is back, and it has come back. Obviously, have taken some of the criticism and says, "Fine, we'll do you justice." Besides the Master Chief helmet thing, you all are just gonna have to live with that. But this season comes back, guns a blazing, and we're so excited to be here to talk about it. Terrell and I will be here each and every week with your recap show for each episode. But as I mentioned, episode 1 and 2 is the premiere tonight, Sanctuary and Sword. So we're going to cover the 2 of those episodes, and then we're back next week for just episode 3. But starting off, just to kind of give a little bit of context of how we do things here. There's a lot that goes on in these episodes, especially with us covering 2 episodes. So we're not going to cover each and every event and each and every scene by scene. We're going to talk about the big moments. We're going to talk about the things we liked. We're going to talk about the big plot moments. We're going to talk about characters. But more importantly, within this one, we're going to have to talk about getting reacclimated and back into the world of Halo. So, Terrell, I'm going to throw it to you with this one, man. It's been 6 months now since Cortana has been moved from my man Master Chief, who Master Chief is back. And this is definitely this is a significant step in terms of the progress in the silver timeline here. And with that, I felt like was a good leap forward. I will talk about the beginning of episode 1 in 1 second, but for you, the time jump here, the progress moving forward, did you feel like you were back in action? Did you feel like you missed anything? What was just your initial reactions to them kicking us back off for season 2, knowing that we're 6 months ahead? This is their season 2. So, knowing that Paramount Plus now has that confidence, has sort of that swagger now with this season. Because the first one was a little bit like dicey. It's a very, very popular IP. It got mixed reactions. As I mentioned, I think they took the criticism and really did a lot of good things right that needed a little touching up on from last season, which I enjoyed last season. But I think coming back this one, I think they definitely did listen to the fans and address some things. But just for you personally, how did you feel about the 6-month time jump, and how do you feel like this the initial reintroduction back into the world of Halo?
Oh, first off, I was super confused because I think just because we haven't watched Halo in 2 years. It feels like, I mean, it was 2022. I mean, we getting this in February, so I really didn't even know where we had left off last. I know the first season, it was some major characters that had died. A major character that died, and it was a lot of big events involving the stone, but as we come back into this, I was hoping for a recap. There was no recap. So I was like, man, where did I leave off? So when they said 6 months, I was writing it down like, okay, I'm trying to make sense of where we are and how much has changed. And you can already see, like you said before, like they're already building the blocks to a new story. They're already trying to move forward. I mean, from all the haters that had what they had to say about last season and characters that were involved. So I'm pretty excited to see like where this story goes, mainly because I really just don't know where this is going at all. I feel like for the most part, I tried to predict the first season, and I was completely wrong at every step. Every time I thought I knew something or comparatively try to compare it to the game, I was wrong. And I think that's what a lot of like the butthurt fanboys, they want to they see Master Chief as only being one way. This can't be like a different universe or a different story. It has to follow, the game. So any deviation from that, people are automatically going to be mad. But I'm pretty excited to see what we get out of season 2 and what they're able to do now that, like you said, Paramount is on board. We got the budget. We had the budget before in the first season, but like now that we're really acclimating like those resources, how far we can really take this for season 2.
Yeah, I think all these major, big and popular IPs, no matter the budget attached, no matter the network backing, it still has to resonate with the fans. And I think again there was mixed reactions, but I think for the fans that did show up and support, that was the confidence that they needed to go forward. They did a lot of really good things with this in terms of like in-person activations and promotional work with it as well. I think Paramount is really ramping up their slate of series and original series so that it becomes a destination for folks to want to subscribe in the streaming service wars. But with that, you have to, if you're going to have something like this, you're going to have to go 110% with it. And they did, because one of the biggest criticisms from last year, besides particular characters, was the action. People wanted to feel like Halo.
Right.
This introductory scene before the title screen even drops was top tier. I was just like, I literally was looking like there's no way you can complain about this. I mean, first of all, Master Chief 1v10 plus the Shank Healy, like he went apeshit, and like obviously anybody who's a big fan of the energy sword probably was going off. But like even just the aesthetic, the production, the CGI, just everything, how they really laid this out. The fog kind of looked kind of eerie, and just the camouflage with them kind of coming in, the other troops kind of being blindsided. It kind of give you a little bit of a horror feel because you knew something was going to happen. And then when it happened, then you got some of these really up close and personal shots, and sort of just not so much first person, but damn near close to it at times. Right. They really worked all the magic out. So like for me, I'm thinking like, if you want folks to get back into the world of Halo, you got to bring the action. You got to get us back acclimated with these characters, which they did a very good job in terms of doing that over the first 2 episodes, which is why I think it was a good decision to drop 2 at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
And then the stakes are there. And I think if you are a fan of the Halo or not, I think your reservation about you don't know where this is going to go is good, because that means anything can happen. It's 8 episodes. They're not going to just dance around in the same circle. So I love the fact that we just don't know where it's going to go. We do have internal conflict with the Silver Team, but also too, Master Chief with his emotions is aware of everything that's happening around him. We have some new characters introduced, which I'm going to talk about in 1 second. And there's just so much more to really put into place here. I mean, and then we'll talk a little bit more when we get to the second episode, but characters we thought were gone are back, which really shakes things up. So I just think that they took everything with season 1. They doubled down on it with the critique of what the fans' response were. And I think they got a lot of it right. And I'm definitely looking forward to seeing where it's going to go. But the massive opening sequence, I mean, it was just fantastic. But talking about new characters, because let's start there. Joseph Morgan as James Ackerson, who's the intelligent operative Ackerson. He's clearly a villain. He's clearly a dictator.
You got the villain music, like come on.
1,000%. Give me your first reactions to his introduction, and over the 2 episodes, where do you kind of see his storyline going?
I mean, they kind of made like Halsey in the first season like the bad guy. I mean, she was the bad guy. She was doing terrible things to children, and they kind of had to replace her with an unknown threat that we still don't know like the full extent of this guy's backstory and what he's about. We just know that everybody don't like him. that's the vibe. Like he comes in and he's clearly up to something, but we just don't know what it is yet. But like I said, they pretty much replaced Halsey for him, and I don't know. I mean, he seems like he's about doing his job by any means, by getting it done. But at the same time, there's definitely a personal agenda here that, like I said, we don't see And maybe I'm thinking maybe Covenant Plant. They've already had basically they've already had one. So we've already seen that with the previous character from the first season. Possible Covenant Plant. I mean, we don't know
McKee.
Yeah, but we don't know how far kind of where their
Their
plot
reach is.
Yeah.
Pun intended.
I feel like really we didn't really see a lot of them in the first season until really the end. Like we didn't really get an idea of like where it was going, what the plan was. And even now we still really don't know anything. But yeah, I'm thinking from my thoughts now, like some type of covenant plan or something like that, just based off the vibe of the conversations. If I had to throw a theory out there on them.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of our predictions really fell flat last season because
Yeah.
of this show just takes a lot of really unpredictable twists and turns. I mean, even talking about McKee, I definitely didn't think she was this. I didn't think they were going to kill her just as much as I didn't think they were going to bring her back, because I think with the 6-month jump, I thought they were just wiping her hands with characters and elements that they were just like, no, we don't need this anymore. So it is interesting that she's back. But I think with Atkinson, I think the biggest thing is that him having Halsey captive, having Cortana captive, inquiring about Master Chief and his psyche, and then even trying to use folks against him, his folks, using Kai against him, which I got to just mention really quick. Kai was one of my favorite characters last season, and ever since Kai had her what's the name extracted out of her.
It was like a chip, like an inhibitor chip, or like for
Yeah.
the
The palette. Yeah. This comes off like a fed. The question she asks, I mean, this is easily the person you want to kind of use to flip against Master Chief. But I mean, again, his whole psyche is in question. You know, they're concerns about his mental state. And then we see the quick shot of the Keystone, and it seems to be interest there just as much as we've seen McKee with the Keystone as well too, which we know you get the two of those together, some things are going to happen. It would be crazy if the Covenant has in possession both pieces by working internally just on different ends. For them to just be bamboozled by somebody that quickly again would kind of be wild. So I say all that to say, I'm not quite sure what his motivations is or where his allegiance lies, but it is going to be interesting because do you think they make him such a bad guy that they somehow make Halsey a good guy? Like, do you think there's a reason that they like make him so bad that they make everything that Halsey did in the first season seem to just be a sweep under the rug? It's just the different things I think they can play with here, because he's really established himself as a total prick, unpredictable, but clearly got a plan that we are going to see come to light within the next few episodes.
Yeah, I mean, like I feel like if they weren't gonna do the whole villain redemption thing, they would have just killed her off on screen the first time around. But I do think there's gonna be some moment, or like, I mean, she's gonna be an ongoing character for a while. But there's gonna be a moment where she has to save the planet, the world, or anything like that, through some type of self-sacrifice or something like that. We're definitely gonna get that pretty soon. It's funny that you mentioned the Kai thing too, because we kind of get into the conversation. Like, remember, Kai was also going through, like you said, like the same stuff that Master Chief was going through, and she would be the one to kind of be the spy, or the one that's being used to do that, which would, rings the question of why he kept asking, like, "Yo, you okay? Is everything okay? Is everything good?" So that definitely makes a lot more sense as to why he would pick her. Now that you brought it up.
Yeah. So Bokeem Woodbine, one of our favorite actors, Soren.
Evil Dave Chappelle.
No. We're not allowed to say that black people are the same. But Sworn 066, right? I think that his story right now is definitely in flux. I have some level of confidence. He'll obviously be around for a long time. But I think by how we are introduced to him, we see his relationship with his wife, and then with his son, and then Kwan Ha, who is everybody's most hated characters
I have
outside
no
of
idea why.
ours, is playing babysitter, I guess. But rightfully so. There's a relationship between the two of him, and she is going to be assuming more of a relationship with Kessler, his son, with him going out and doing a mission, being double crossed, and now arrested or taken in because a bounty for him. And we'll talk more about that in a second. But I think that with Soren, I think that there is really a lot of directions they could go. But I think this is really to build the emotional toll for what we see foreshadowing is his son sort of like going, or should we say like almost like with taking his father's legacy and becoming the next one up as a Spartan. There's obviously the shot with him in the helmet. I don't know if there's any lore with his son outside of the series, but they seem to really be going in that direction that he's like the next man up, and I think they're building that, which to me tells me we're not going to see too much Soren in this, but Kwan Ha is clearly going to be on the way to go get my guy.
They gonna dump it down.
And his wife. I mean, his wife was definitely like, "Hey, y'all need to figure something out." He would have never left y'all there, so figure it out because it's not sitting well with it. But I'm intrigued to see what Soren's whole element for this season is going to be. I think we gotten so much from season one. Seems like he may be taking just a step back in some type of just a character that is used to make other characters significant, which in this case I think will be his son. And then I think the son relationship with Kwan Ha is going to be like a flip in terms of what Soren did for Kwan Ha season one, kind of bringing him under his wing and making her who she is now. And I think she's going to use that to kind of help his son. So your thoughts?
Is you mentioned that about his son, and I'm like, the Spartan program is disbanded. So I don't know how he would become a Spartan. What I mean, he got to get the super soldier serum up in him. But I definitely question too. Like as I watch this, like, okay, do Spartans have do they become enhanced because of the suit, or do they become enhanced like outside the suit, and the suit just enhances upon like the speed, the strength, stuff like that. And like the endurance.
Yeah, don't forget that Ackerson was just like, you're just a guy in a suit.
Right.
So I think that question is going to become a theme for the season. And obviously we know that there is definitely a measure of like physical enhancement.
The reason I ask, because like we see a lot of Soren, and like he's a previous Spartan. And somebody really don't like see it, like if he does, like if he has any of those physical attributes. And I asked because like, does that pass on to his son? Like since he if it was like an injection or something like that, or would they get enhanced, does that go on to his kid, which would make sense as to how he would be able to become another Spartan or something like that, since they're clearly hinting at his son paying attention to what his father does, what he says, reading, having his own thoughts about things, becoming basically becoming his own person. Like when his dad asked him like who told you that, he was like, nah, I just figured that out on my own. Like I'm learning, Dad.
Right.
What I mean?
Right. So I mean, yeah, because Master Chief is genetically enhanced, it's a possibility that you're basically saying, will his son be able to tap into, not his son, but will Soren's son be able to tap into a level of genetics or something that's going to unlock potential for him? I mean,
wasn't that the whole conversation in the first season about how Spartans, like once they get past a certain point, they couldn't have children or anything like that? They pretty much get sterilized. Like, yeah. Like so I was just curious about like how we would see that going forward, like would his son show any like attributes or anything like that towards
this outliers is
right.
That's all. So Soren,
he's the only one so far that we would even have to go off of that. But
maybe.
Like, Kwan Ha, who became the most hated, character of all time without even doing anything. We definitely see her come back, and it seems like the women in the show are like the shift of power is starting to kind of go to like the characters that were playing like a B-roll. We're starting to see them kind of pick it up and take over for for the leads. Like you said, Soren is in his situation where he's been either captured, arrested, or whatever the situation was, and maybe we see more of his wife, who played a backseat role, Liaris, who played a backseat role in the first season, and then whatever this lone wolf and cub thing we're gonna get with Kwan Ha and Soren's son. So hopefully we see a little bit more of that. But yeah, you definitely got me curious about this Boba Fett, Jango Fett legacy thing we got going on with it. Put that helmet down. So
yeah, for real. That's a good point. You also talking about new other characters too. Christina Rodolo, who plays Corporal Perez, who in the opening scene is brutally attacked but isn't killed. And she definitely had questions because she said some very key things that I don't think they played up too big in this, but that's why we're here to talk about it. She talked about how she can sense things and how she felt things when they were what do you call it? That
they were glassing the planet. They were doing like
when they got attacked. I can't think of the word too. When you sneak up behind somebody on an attack, you kind of catch them off guard. When you catch them off guard, whatever. But anyway, when that happened, when they were caught off guard and whatnot, she talked about how like she can sense things. She felt like something was happening, and all these other things. The sense of feeling and everything is obviously going to resonate very big with Master Chief because now that he has feelings, he plays very big into that. Which even he mentioned later on that, well, he said I saw her, and when he said he saw her, I was like, is he talking about Cortana? But no, he was talking about McKee, which I thought I saw too, but I thought I was tripping. When all that fight happened in Sanctuary. So it's interesting because even going into the second episode where which is just completely hilarious. He goes to check on her and he gets brought in for dinner because if there's one thing I know about a abuela, she's going to make sure that you eat. And she says, "You're a big man." And then brings him in for dinner and we get our best version of the Fast and Furious family dinner.
No, the Coronas.
Minus the Coronas here. But it is interesting because they do resonate in a way that I think he needs. He doesn't have Cortana. He doesn't have he doesn't have Cortana, and he also doesn't have that McKee relationship that was kind of being a thing towards the end of the episode. So Corporal Perez being in Italia is somebody I think we're going to see a lot more of, and I think it's going to make a lot of rationale but behind some of Master Chief's actions. But even with that being said, too, the big dilemma for the two episodes here is we did see sort of the friendly, let me say, the friendly competition between the Silver Team and Cobalt, and Cobalt goes out.
Each other,
yeah, I mean, this was great. I love to see all of them kind of taking jabs at each other. I listen, to be honest, Kai was my favorite character last season. I'm kind of digging Riz right now, but no one has better one-liners than Vanek. He's going to make sure that he gets his off each and every episode. He's going to make sure he got something to say. But the biggest important thing is that while we understood a couple of different tags that you put with the Spartans, like one, Spartans don't die. So when somebody is on a mission, which is the thing Master Chief kept questioning, was like, why do you keep changing their status on the board? They're good. They're out there. They're going to come back. Who's telling you this? Which we know that Atkinson's behind all of this. And so this only further makes Master Chief wants to dig more and more about what's happening, which to find out that he went and found out that Cobalt went on a mission. The mission didn't come up. They couldn't find any information about it in the database until he says, well, don't use their name. Just show me anything that went out, in order to find out that their ship never went out. So it led him into two things. One, we need to go find them. he had to bamboozle his teams because he had to let them think they were going to do something else, only to find out that they're going off the Cobalt and that team, and that ultimately that danger was right here on Reach for them, which you find out that the Covenant was on Reach as well. So like the fight is now here, and that's just bad news for everybody, but also it just brings more questions in terms of them being able to infiltrate this close. But I guess for my question to you, when you talk about all of the training that the Spartans went through, Riz really being put to the test, the injury she had, how could I not have mentioned at this point now that Marvin Jones the third is in this series as Lewis, who also talks about his time in terms of being a Spartan, but also has a connection with Riz. I don't know if they established them being brother and sisters or something, but there's a level of respect for the two of them, and he was talking about his time and kind of motivating and pushing her forward. But he's also given a lot of perspective about this program in the past and just different things, which is when you talked about Soren, I said that kind of follows suit for him too. He seems to have different outliers in terms of when he determined that, like, I'm out of this, and what you got to give up to be in it. So I can't wait to see. First of all, anything with Marvin, I'm in for. So make sure we get a lot more of him this season. Hopefully that wasn't just a one-off. But yeah, when you think about the different dynamics that are happening within the Silver team, Master Chief is being questioned about his emotions. Kai is obviously playing the informant. Vanek is always going to have his one-liners, and then Riz having this injury that clearly is going to come into effect because the training wasn't going the way it should have been, even to the point that Master Chief definitely let up on her when he could have took a shot at any given point. What do you think about like the dynamic for the four of them and how it's going to play going forward?
I mean, I love to see our main characters like interact as a family. I feel like that first season, like we definitely got it, but the first season, like it was this corporate, army, corruption. Who was dirty, and now I feel like we're getting more of that. So we really didn't get a lot of time to focus in on the team dynamic, like the family dynamic. It really felt like it was focused between Master Chief and not Riz. Was Riz
Kai?
It was between, so we didn't really get time to focus on other characters. And here we are, we get the Silver team, and we get to see a little bit more of the competitive nature of like the Spartans and like how they interact with each other, and how they talk about how they're the regular team is the face of the Spartans. Some of these other teams don't get time. They do the work, but they don't get mentioned. You know what I mean? Like somehow it's always like Master Chief this so and so does this, but they're out there doing the same thing, but they don't get no press. So we also see like because first when they get first introduced, they come off like, okay, are they enemies or like they just joking with each other? We couldn't really tell if they was about to fight in the locker room or not. But like I said, it's another like government conspiracy. That's basically what they're leading to in season 2. I feel like we gotta, like, especially the first season, it was government conspiracy. We had a little bit of who can you trust, between the Covenant and whatever. Master Chief losing his mind. Now we have a clear-headed Master Chief once again. His thoughts and actions put into question, and his friends are on the same page as him for the most part. Because before it was like he had to hide all of it. He couldn't be honest. Now we get to see, like I said, that family dynamic of the Spartans in the locker room and how they are before they go out the mission. And you get to see also, they still have a lot of respect for John and Master Chief, with the helmet off, on, on the field. But like I said, I'm hoping to see a lot more of Silver's. Hoping to see a lot more of the Silver team. I'm hoping that we get like so they have like one-off episodes where they just kind of focus in on one or two particular characters. I'm hoping we get to see a little bit more of what they do. I hope they don't die. I'm hoping, like you said, we get a lot more of what Spartans are doing outside the suit, and how they go on, and we got a whole breakdown of, look, I was about to go blonde. What retirement looks like for a Spartan. Jokes about pretty much like once you done, you washed up. You know what I mean? You giving your body to the program, and what do you have left to give after it's all said and done? And just seeing like basically the limitations of what the Spartans can do, because they're not gods, they're not superhuman, they're still regular people with these enhancements. But as you see, like as we go through rehabilitation, they do have weaknesses, they do have flaws, and like I said, it's still a lot that we're learning about Spartans outside of just the glam of the suit and everything like that. So I'm hoping we get a lot more breakdowns of these characters, and just their personal lives, and just the camaraderie of those two teams too.
Yeah, and also the other thing, just even talking about that, just as a quick pivot, as I mentioned with Corporal Perez, who's a Marine, she's going through things as well too. I think there's a focus of like PTSD with everybody. Everybody's having these flashback moments. Master Chief is, if it's not McKee, if it's not thinking about the removal of Cortana, he's constantly having to deal with some type of emotions that is attached to some level PTSD. So with that, and then with the Covenant being there and the other troops, like again, we got another victim who's just not instantly killed. So are they infiltrating from like a mental standpoint to really take down these troops? Because if you're talking about they can't die, you're talking about all these different things in terms of why it may be hard to fight them, combat to combat. Are you playing a different type of war game here? Are you a warfare? Are you going with the mental aspect of it? And I think that could be interesting, because we're definitely seeing a lot about emotions and the struggles with that from these first two episodes. But last thing I really want to talk about is we met the character Felix, who goes out and says like, he got something, and Felix is trying to sell the pirates into something because he knows where she's at, as he's mentioning Dr. Halsey, which brings the attention of Soren, because Soren and Halsey got a pass and it has something to do with his arm and all that other good stuff. So with that being said, first thing I said to myself was like, man, this dude Felix is giving me Kwan again. There's somebody who's just a complete level of liability, who's just going to just be a bunch of trouble. But the bamboozling of this guy, setting him up, getting Soren arrested, and so on. Did you see that coming by any means?
I mean, 100%. Yeah, I mean, his wife pretty much set it up, telling him like, look, you didn't. How many times if you've gone down this rabbit hole about these false claims that she's alive? She said, I see the look in your eye, like you want like how deep he was involved in like really getting at this. Like, I mean, the guy was just a little too. He was doing a little too much. And just the way he was acting, the way whatever. Like, I definitely saw it coming. The way
you lying because you lying because their test message thought he was actually you thought he was gonna die.
Who? The guy who let him out there?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought for sure he was gonna fly out the window. The into the space when they opened the door the first time. I thought he was gonna fly.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, no, I didn't see this coming at all. I did not see him setting up Soren. I did not see him being competent. I did not see the long game of him having charges about everything that Soren has done in terms of being a pirate.
It was too easy. It was just too easy. If the UNSC has not found her yet, in the 6 months, this one guy on a tip, all of a sudden, like it was
convincing too.
Yeah, I mean that's what he had to be convincing. I mean, he because what was he? His terms, he's basically about to become an indentured servant. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so I mean, what else? I mean, who planted that though? Like, because now we found out that he worked for like the government or something like that, and he was like under arrest. So he was, again, you can't trust nobody in the show at this point. Like who they say they are. So yeah, I mean, like definitely. I mean, I'm not gonna say 100%. Like, yeah, I mean, I suspected it the entire time, but like once we got to a certain point where they kept hammering on it, I was like, oh yeah, this is definitely about to go south.
Yeah. Last couple of things we talked about Talia and her family, and one of her relatives asking Master Chief, which is KDR, which is hilarious, and talking about yeah his game Spartan Attack, which I was like, wait, isn't that a game? But it's not Spartan Attack. It's called Spartan Assault. And I was like, yeah. I knew it was something like that. But anyway, as I mentioned, as her being a Marine, she talked about the message she heard, and Master Chief ensured her that these things will happen again. So obviously be prepared for the fight that is to come. We were questioned about where Cortana was at. As I mentioned, Cortana is locked up. This is all by Atkinson, who is running this simulation with Julia and trying to get as much as he can about out of
Halsey.
Halsey, and Halsey's trying to figure out who got her, which was her whole thing. Is like, who is the guy? Who's the guy? So it's interesting because, like, with her whole motivation in terms of trying to figure out, the person who captured her, I didn't think it was just going to just become like a, well, here he is, unless there's somebody else he's answering to, but I don't know. So, a lot of different things happening. I guess to kind of just wrap up, like Silver Team looking for the missing Spartans. Kai out here trying to play investigative in terms of Master Chief's mental stability. Kwan, while Soren is gone, is realizing that where they're at in Rubble is dangerous, and needs him, which is obviously going to be the motivation to get him back, so there can kind of be some order there as well too. And then last but not least, we have McKee and the Covenant. She's back.
Who she swore she shot her herself. They wanted you to remember that she did shoot her. He's like,
Yep.
So we both saw her get shot. So
yep. So yeah, she's back, and
actually her.
I don't know, but whoever it is, I think it is her, and I think they'll obviously talk about it. But she's in control of the Covenant. The Covenant's on reach, from what Master Chief is saying, and as it appears, and I think this is obviously a tie to the missing Spartans. And with her having a part of the Keystone, I think the danger is near and a lot is to come. So we're just going to be here to talk about that each and every week for more recap reviews of Halo Season 2. Terrell, anything else you want to add before we wrap up tonight?
Oh yeah. A few things. I want to talk about the communications team who we meet on the planet. And like you said, that whole scene where she could sense the presence of the Covenant. I feel like she is now replacing Maki's role, who also has that sense, who has that ability, almost like a psychic ability to sense emotion and like things around her.
Yeah.
So maybe like we find like there's more of that people or whatever, whatever like gives her that ability. Maybe that brings that up. Also, bringing up the fact that Master Chief knew they were not on a military team. They won communications because the fact they could not shoot. They were stormtroopers. They really talk about like throughout the first two episodes the Covenant glassing the planets, pretty much training to take over, because there's a full scale invasion that they're warming up for, and clearly like John is clearly trying to warn them, hey, this is coming, but of course his clarity, his mental health is being put into question because of what happened in the first season with Cortana and everything, after taking out the chip and remembering everything that Halsey did to him. But of course now we know it's because this guy is clearly up to something. So we're gonna get to that. Meant to ask you about like Cortana being removed. My memory is a little hazy about that even happening. Like the actual scene about Cortana actually being removed from the skull. Maybe I think this is going to be a little bit more fan services now going forward. If Cortana comes back to actually showing her being inserted into the helmet instead of to the base of his skull, maybe we'll get a little bit different because that will be a little bit make more sense as to how we're going to use Cortana more season 2 going forward. Because in the game we see her being inserted in like different things and stuff like that. You know, her being able to take over bases and like computers and stuff like that. What about that?
Yeah, and obviously one having Jen Taylor back, because with Cortana being in limbo and not knowing what they were going to do with Cortana, I was like, oh, would they really be as bold as to completely remove Cortana from the show? Yeah, it just would be ridiculous. But I mean, hey, you just never know with some of these shows. But I do love how Cortana was playing. How do I put this? First of all, him going to a virtual brothel for Cortana's is just wow, you know. Right. But I mean, this tells you how much Cortana means to him. But I got to say, Cortana and Atkinson, she's being real suspicious, because she was like, well, you know, if I just had access to the external data, you know, I can get you what you need. She's an AI, so she's not going to show face. But us as the viewers, we know she's trying to get back the Master Chief one way or another. She just needs access to this sort of outside of this environment that she's being captive in right now, where she's only being able to really focus on Halsey. So she's trying to be in good graces by working on Halsey, which doesn't do anything bad for anybody. But also she's ultimately trying to gain more trust for Atkinson, so she can get more communications and access, which will ultimately get her to Master Chief, which is interesting too, because, well, it seems like Atkinson was little close into doing so. He didn't give like a stern no. He was kind of like a no, not right now. Just
right. Well, they mentioned like a trace of Cortana possibly being left in John's, like, you know, his brain or something like that, which would explain like maybe he developed like some type of sense to where the AI is possibly, or he knows that she's still out there somewhere. Or, I mean, obviously he knows, you know, that she's been removed. He doesn't know where she is specifically. But maybe there's some way for Cortana to reach out to John with that piece being left in his head. I just thought about that earlier. Maybe there was like some type of communication, because outside of like electronics, that would be like the only way that she would be like, hey, John, you know, I'm here, or something like that.
Yeah.
But you know, of course, Kwan coming back. Really unclear as to kind of where we left off with that, because she's been tagged with like indentured servant thing to her ear. Didn't really get a lot of information about that. You know, Liara, you know, being suspicious about her husband, the crew just dipping out on him, leaving them out in space. You know, we still don't got a lot of information on that. Were they paid off, or did they legitimately just leave because they thought they were in danger?
Seems real shady to me.
We get Riz trying to get herself back, like I said, combat ready. We get the whole the rehab with Spartans. Like you said, we talked about that.
Physical therapy. But oh no, on that note too, you talked about like where the pain really exists, and it's not so much external, it's internal. So that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of like a lot of this episode really is built upon everyone's mental state. It ain't PTSD. It's some level of mental health that needs to be addressed with folks. So it's interesting. You know, we're getting more feelings from folks that came off very much robotic in other mediums, you know, whether it's the game or whether it's season 1, you know.
And you can hear it now too, just going into the second season, just like the conversation of the Spartans, they sound completely different. They talking like
they're having fun.
Right. Yeah. Like before, like the first season, they were super corporate. They were, like you said, robots to a certain extent, like without the chips or the you know, this whatever can I remember what they call, but like they're out. They're just pilots. Yeah, they're talking like regular people and XYZ. So like you hear people joking now and, you know, certain stuff like that. Like I said, like I said, these 2 episodes definitely need to be aired together, because I know a lot of people complain about, you know, the action and stuff like that. I feel like we had to wait till damn near the end of the show. Like we got it sprinkled through season 1, but like we get it right off the break here. But this show is not all action. It's a lot more. It's a lot layered. And I think that's just gonna make for a better story. I know people just want to see the Covenant get shot every episode, but that's not gonna make sense for TV. And last but not least, just hoping we get to see more of the Covenant. We get a little bit more of a teaser here with like the ships and stuff like that. Just even more so proving John was right, you know. But I'm hoping we get more and more Covenant here. Hope we can get more backstory, or at least more stuff on them going forward. Because I feel like the first season they were just sprinkled, but we didn't really get a lot as to what their motivations were and what was actually going on outside of the interaction with Mati. So
yeah, and obviously now, you know, people are trying to get the Keystone and really getting us and inching us closer to the Halo installations.
right.
So
I can't wait to see.
for sure. So I don't know. There's definitely a lot to look forward to. The biggest thing for me is that, listen, this show production just looks insane. I'm just
it's
looking
dark
at
a lot of episodes too, by the way.
and it's watchable dark. I love a good low light, you know, but it's so enjoyable because it brings that level of like mystique to it, and then they bring together the solid action. I mean, even the training sequences was dope. So I think they did just do a really good job of just really bringing the action to life, the production, the costume design, because the suits look hella amazing. I mean, even all of the swag that Master Chief has on throughout the entire time, it's just really dope. So up and down, I think they really took a big step forward with season 2, and I can't wait to see what we got for season 3. For episode 3. Obviously more seasons, but episode 3. But yeah, anyway, you all get in the comments, you let us know your thoughts about the return of Halo for episodes 1 and 2, and then we're back into our deep dive for episode 3 next week. Jump in the comments, let us know your thoughts about this episode, things that we can do better in terms of our recap, review, whatever you all may be looking for, all that other good stuff. And we will be here with more content on Big O Belt Media each and every week. Thank y'all for tuning in.
Yes, sir. Kwan is back.